his resume, I mean, this is also absolutely outstanding. He is a Cannes Lions Grand Prix winner for Southeast Asia. He is a winner of Gold Award of Data Driven Marketing, having showcased his proficiency and leveraging data to drive impactful business decisions for global giants like MasterCard, Nestle, Unilever. Shri Mukherjee has been a lecturer at prestigious institutions like Nanyang Technical University, the Singapore Civil Service College. Sir, a hearty welcome to you.
Thank you
We
very
are
much.
all looking forward to hear Mr. Sanyal. We are all looking forward to hear Mr. Mukherjee. So, sir, I'll start with you.
I'll introduce why I wanted to speak then.
So I'll start with you.
So
Thank you very much, sir. Thanks a lot. Thanks for being with us this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Khaitan, for a very kind introduction. As usual, I'm under performance pressure. Now, if the lecture turns out to be bad, they'll blame me, but they'll also blame him. So, okay. In order to encourage my book sales, now I have to keep up with the introduction. So let me first say that it's a pleasure to be back here. I'm here for the fifth time in the last 6-7 years. So almost once every year I've been here. And I've always been greeted with a great amount of love. So thank you very much. Many of you I now have got to know over the last few years quite well. The reason I thought I will talk about this particular topic is I think there is a lot of noise about it. But I think as a country, other than people who are actually doing the technology, which obviously they are engaged in so every day, so they think about it, I think we more widely are not engaging with this or anticipating the sheer scale of the changes that this will bring. Now, the discussions about it either come from technology enthusiasts who think that, this is the best thing that ever happened, or doomsday says that, this is going to end like the Terminator and, artificial intelligence will take us over and very bad things will happen. Now, actually, just like the technology itself, the world we are entering is not predictable. A lot will depend on how we adapt to it, how we regulate it, and what we do with it. So the reason I want to start a wider conversation is because it's going to influence so many of us in so many different ways. We need actually a wider public debate about this. This is not a debate that needs to be had between the technologists themselves, and it certainly isn't a debate that can be had within the government. This is a wider debate. We need wider participation. We also need wider vigilance, because it is true that this technology has emergent capabilities of running away in directions that could be really dangerous. At the same time, this will happen. And unless we want to be Luddites and get stuck with old technology, if we don't adopt it, we will be like the old Indian armies that faced cannons on elephants. We'll just get wiped out. So we have to adapt to what is coming. Now, the technology that has led to much of the excitement these days is obviously large language models. This is ChatGPT and other things, because they are so human-like. So consequently, we have suddenly woken up to it. But this has been some time in the making. And really, this is about pattern recognition still. But the next generation of artificial intelligence, particularly given that quantum leaps are being made in quantum technologies and quantum computing, you will now begin to see artificial intelligence begin to do first principle thinking. So this is not just, dump a large amount of data and it finds various kinds of patterns. This will be able to do something that is very, very human, which is first principles thinking, i.e. do things that human beings have never done before. Now, it is very close to that. And because pathways have already been created by LLM technology, these new types of artificial intelligence will feed through very, very quickly. The chips for all of this is already being designed. So this is coming. Now, where are the places where this will influence our lives? Interestingly, one of the big misconceptions about technology is that it impacts the less skilled and it benefits the highly skilled. In fact, the entire history of technology is actually exactly the opposite. So, for example, when guns were first introduced and they began to spread in the 16th century, it was invented really in the 14th, 15th century, but it's really in the 16th, 17th century that it really began to spread. It didn't spread because the guns were better than bows and arrows. The early guns were inaccurate, they had short range, they took ages to reload. So, why did people shift from bows and arrows, which were light, they were accurate, they had longer range in the beginning at least? Why did they shift from that to guns? For a very simple reason. It allowed them to very cheaply deploy peasant armies, i.e., train people to fire these guns, whereas firing bow and arrow required you for training for years before you could do it. So archers were very expensive, and consequently, you could only have a very few of them. Whereas you could create large numbers of gunners with very little training. This was also similarly true when we went through the Industrial Revolution. The point about Industrial Revolution was not that highly skilled machine tools guys were beginning to run and create cloth. Far from it, the early artisans were very skilled. The artisans that the machine-made cloth was replacing, it was the skilled guys. The artisans were the skilled guys. The point in England was that you could get all these peasants who were being kicked off their land from the enclosure movement, who didn't have any skill of making cloth, and ask them to do simple tasks and break it down such that they did simple tasks that run a machine. So in fact, again, the technology really enabled a low skill person to do a high skill job. Similarly, today, we have replaced, because of IT since the 90s, everybody here is writing emails, doing all kinds of things. Earlier, you had to be a writer, an editor, get a stenographer, typist, all kinds of things in order to produce a document. Today, a low skill person with basic knowledge can just put his idea down, Grammarly will edit it, word processing will nicely format it, and you can put it. So a low skill person can now produce a high level document. Same thing happened in media. Earlier, you need a highly skilled journalist, needed somebody with great skills in, videography, etc., to be able to do news reporting. Today, somebody with a phone can do it. So the first point I want to make is all technology throughout history impacts the high skilled people. It then moves down the chain. So this will also be true of this technology. Existing people in higher skill areas will be first disintermediated. The good news is that in every generation, this sort of disintermediation also creates new jobs. So yes, so jobs will be destroyed, but jobs will also be created. After all, who thought that being a podcaster or being a social media influencer was going to be considered to be a profession? Today, it is considered a perfectly well-paying profession. And so I'm 100% certain that there will be new jobs, which I cannot predict today, that will be created out of this. So the first point I'm making out of this long conversation is that many new jobs will be created, but we can't predict. Therefore, flexibility of our labor markets, flexibility of our skilling systems matters more than anything else. Trying to fight this is a complete waste of time. So that's the first thing that I wanted to make. The second point I want to make is that it will change many things in very fundamental ways. And I'm going to give an illustration of just one sector, because this is a sector everybody has passed through, which is higher education. I'm using this just as an illustration, but this similar things will happen with law, it will happen with journalism, it will happen with many other things. I'm quite certain a lot of economists will also lose their jobs out of this, which is perfectly fine. But let me show you how tertiary education will change. Today, how is tertiary education set up? You basically, at age 18 or 19, you basically head off to university, depending on what degree you're doing. You spend 3-4 years, and then you learn something, and then you basically, on the basis of that, uh, work till whenever you retire. Now, this particular approach to education is already dead. We already have systems, and Shwendu will also demonstrate a few of them, where it is actually makes sense today, so not future technology. You just get the world's best person, whatever subject you want, let him give a series of lectures, put it on YouTube. Everybody in the world can watch it for free. And then ChatGPT can answer all your questions. There is no need for us to create large universities with lectures, spend 4 years there. All of you can, depending on what subject is of interest to you, can listen to the best person in the world. Why do you need to listen to your local professor? Listen to whoever is the top guy in that. We can be a Nobel laureate for it matters. And then the system, ChatGPT, will answer all your questions. Then ChatGPT will even test your knowledge. So unless you happen to be at some really cutting edge technology where it has not yet been standardized, most of undergraduate education, even postgraduate education, large parts of it is just standardized knowledge. This does not require us 200 acres of land, 4 years sitting in giving lectures. Today, we can disintermediate the entire thing. Now, I know there are some areas where you may not be able to do it. I can understand that, doctors and surgeons need to learn how to cut a cadaver. Fair enough. Maybe there'll be some sectors like that. But even then, a large part of it can be done like this. You will need some practicals, labs, etc., where you need to do. Certainly, the field of economics doesn't need labs. I'm of the view you can more or less teach all of economics in this way. Now, you may need to do some collaborative work. Yes, for that, you come to college for a few times a year. Or you can be given projects which you can collaborate even online. You need to come to a university, or even if you do, we want a feeling of camaraderie or a batch or whatever. Few times a year you come and you do it. Now, what this allows us to do is something very dramatic, this way of thinking about education. First of all, we can make undergraduate education at least completely free. The incremental cost of doing this is very, very small. In most courses, probably there are a few courses where you still need to do hands-on stuff. Number one. So we can actually do something which we never imagined, make tertiary education available to everybody. Yes, there will still be some elite schools, still people want to go to polishing school, let them do it. But the average guy from a village can still get a very good education, listen to all the Nobel laureates he wants. And by the way, because this technology can very quickly now translate almost simultaneously into anything, if you wanted to do the whole thing in Gondi or in Methi, you can do it. I mean, forget about doing it in, well-known languages. You can do it in obscure languages. So this is a hugely powerful tool. Two, you can do it at any point in your life. And this is important because the current system means that you finish basically education somewhere in your early 20s. And then you work for the next 30, 40 years. And the net result is the people who are taking the most crucial decisions are the most distant from their education and consequently the most outdated people. Now, this obviously is not going to work. In the new system, people can update themselves along the way. You don't have to take 4 years off, leave your kids, leave your job, etc., and do this. Number two. Number three, it allows us to do something very, very important. Update curriculums seamlessly. As many of you know, there's a very famous dictum by Max Planck, which is one of the great scientists of the 20th century, physicists of the 20th century, who said, science progresses one funeral at a time. So why did he say science progresses one funeral at a time? Because even in the hard sciences, where you would think these things move faster, and this is, he was working in Germany in the early 20th century. So this is the cutting edge. Even their curriculums do not get upgraded till the head of department has moved on. And finally, new people emerge who are willing to upgrade the curriculum. Now, I can tell you that in India, in areas which are social sciences, arts, etc., the curriculum doesn't get upgraded at all. Yeah. You know, there are still economics departments in India which are telling us about the wonders of the 5-year plans. So the point I'm making is, here you'll have a system that can almost, you can create a paper and it can be almost instantaneously become a part of the system. Just to give you a feel of this, just about a month ago, I published a paper on, many of you may have read it also, on the relative performance of Indian states from 1960 to 1924. Okay. Now, within 2 hours of this paper coming out, it was fed into a model, into a AI system, which created a conversation between two bots. Okay, these are completely artificial creatures, but if you listen to it, you will not believe it. They are talking to each other, discussing my paper as if they are on a TV show. And they were technically correct. In fact, because they were willing to go out and search for, because I hadn't explained many of the technical terms in the paper because it's meant for specialists really. But because this AI system was trying to reach to a larger audience, along the way, it took the trouble to explain different technical terms, which I hadn't explained in the paper. So not only did it read my paper, it went into the internet, understood what, say, Dutch disease means, explained it along the way, then came back to my paper and continued conversing it. And I'm telling you, it was the most accurate rendition of my paper, far better than Shekhar Gupta and others who had also done programs on the same paper. So I'm just telling you this because of how amazingly accurate it is. And of course, I'm just talking about education here, but you can tell how this would be true of many other things. Then, of course, there comes the issue of rapid skilling. If we are seeing so much technology and new jobs will come, by the time I get the university system to accept that this is a new area, it's gone. So, this is how education will work. So I can envisage within 10 years, this is what universities will look like. They will basically function as places to do higher research, i.e., pushing the frontiers of knowledge, not for lecturing. Most of the lecturing will be done online. You do it at home and come. Then maybe you'll do a few projects for the few months that you're supposed to send in university. And what we will do is that we will begin to create certification systems. So it will basically be a system of certify. Even that, to a large extent, will be done by AI systems. There will be some supervising human that will make sure that it is doing the correct thing. But so this will happen whether we like it or not. And yes, a few elite schools will still carry on, but we will very quickly treat them as finishing schools and not as serious places of education. Now, I've now talked long enough, but the reason I gave this somewhat background is so that Shubhendu, when he starts off, you get a sense of the kinds of things technology can already do today in the field of marketing, research, in the field of education and understanding. Some of the things I talked about, he will now demonstrate for you. So over to you, Shubhendu.
Thank you, Sanjeev.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. So I'm going to be, well, good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Wonderful. That was really good. No, actually, I'll be doing a lot of work. Okay. So it's going to be a bit of a messy session in the sense that I'll be jumping between PowerPoint slide to a browser, to some software, to ChatGPT, to some Excel sheets. So I'll be basically doing the kind of work that we do using artificial intelligence. So I'm here as a user of AI and how we use AI in our work and what we, the kind of stuff we do. In the course of this, I'll be taking all of 15 minutes, no more than that. In the course of this 15 minutes, I would love to have some conversations. And one of the bad habits I have is when there's complete silence in the room when I've asked something or I'm soliciting or interested in a conversation. One of the bad habits I have is I tend to pick a name, as I can see all the name cards in front, and I say, Mr. Rajiv Chakravarti, Dr. Rajiv Chakravarti, I would like to have a really nice conversation, interesting conversation with you on this topic. I would do something like this. So my suggestion is volunteer. My suggestion is please volunteer. Makes your life easy, else I will pick. I hope everybody's okay with that. Okay. With that,
But the key pages to optimize, I'm not just talking about SEO.
what are they?
Typically, when people think about optimization, they're like, oh, meta tags.
Sorry. No, some video is being. So the reason why I've called this session Practical AI is because I'm going to show you the kind of work we are not developers of AI as such. We are users of AI. We make the most of what's already out there, and we're cheapskates. We pick things that are for cheap and for free and try to make the most of what we can before we actually start spending money. Okay. So a bit about me, it's already been talked about. So one of the things I did, and Sanjeev is accurately aware of this little history of mine. One of the wild things I did was in my mid-40s, like Sanjeev went India touring, I quit working and I went to school. In Stockholm, a school called Hyper Island, where the youngest one was 19 and I was in my mid-40s. And the weird thing about the school was there was no curriculum. There were no teachers, there was no professors, there's no syllabus, there's no curriculum. The program I was doing was called Digital Data Strategies Program. So what they would do is, at the beginning of every month, there would be a client. So Spotify would come at the beginning of the month with a business problem, not a data problem, not an AI problem, not a technology problem, a business problem. Spotify would come at the beginning of the month, tell us their business problem, give us some data, and say, okay, we'll come back at the end of the month, tell us what to do. And we would be five groups of 8 people each from all kinds of brand backgrounds, scrambling to figure out how to answer those questions, and in the process, learning something. There is no help. There are facilitators who know everything, but they will not help you unless you actually have a definitive question you're stuck with. So I'll give you an example. So because Sanjeev touched upon the method of learning, this is an interesting method of learning which helped me a lot. So there's a huge Swedish media group called Bonnier Media who had lots and lots of data and said, can you look at our data and tell us how we can improve our online subscription of our magazines and newspapers? Oh, wonderful, fantastic, very good. Of course, we'd love to do that. We have the data, please? Yeah, get a flash drive. Here, 16 gigabytes worth of data. Excellent, lovely. Put it in my laptop, try to open it. Excel cannot open that big a file. Okay, how to open large files? Frantically now searching, just running out of time. How to open large files on Excel? Here's a whole bunch of softwares. Install one of them, some of them. Sorry, doesn't work on Mac. How to open large files on Excel on our Mac? Search again. Then we stumbled upon something of a program called FileMaker Pro. The video showed it was useful. But how the hell do I learn FileMaker Pro? Okay, they were giving me 1-month trial. How do I learn? With that specific question, when I went to the facilitator, how do I learn FileMaker Pro? I said, here, free subscription of lynda.com. That time, LinkedIn Learning used to be lynda.com. Here, free subscription of lynda.com, free subscription of visualization software, free subscription, done. Here are the videos you can learn all this from. Go, learn it yourself. So we had to go through that painful journey, come to that question, which is very definitive. Only then we got the help. So I think in many ways, when we will talk a little bit about learning as well. Learning is heading towards that direction. Self-learning, because the opportunities and the resources are all out there. Okay. So yeah, so we worked as the 10th floor, we worked all around the world, different kinds of clients, different kinds of countries. Here's some of the clients we worked with. So one of the interesting things about this weird mix of clients is that we work a lot with data. When you work with data, it's a bit horizontal. So I may not know as much about your industry as you do, but if you give me a little bit of data, we can start making some sense out of it. Yeah. So I really can't have a conversation about the topic today without talking about change. And of course, Sanjeev has got fantastic videos on lots and lots of change management processes, change processes. I highly encourage you go and watch it. Watch all of them. Here's a small take we have on change. So things have changed. How we book hotels, how we control our gadgets, how we book cabs, how we date. Things have changed. But things that have not changed. What makes us fall in love? What makes us jealous? What makes us angry? What makes us want to take care of each other? Those things have not changed. Feelings, human behavior, fundamentally as human beings, we change only in millions of years. The change we are talking about is slightly different. Let me illustrate it with a slightly scandalous topic. I'm guessing all of you are aware of it. If you're not, I can lovingly explain and describe it to you after this session. So when this came about, well, everybody said, hookups are going to change. Man-woman relationships are going to change. Dating is going to change. Dinner dates are going to be changed forever. Everything about men, women, how they interact with each other was supposed to change. So some students in the US decided to get together and do some research amongst Tinder users. And here's what they found. You're 54% more likely to hook up if you're within 1 mile of the other Tinder user. That percentage drops in half, by half, every 2 miles you drift from the center. Okay? Men swipe right, yeah, I want 47% of the times. Women only 15%. And of the top 3 attention-getting devices on Tinder, 72% is looks. Okay, so what do we have? We have close is better than far. Women are pickier than men. Cute is better than ugly. What has changed? What has changed is how we go about doing the same things that we wanted to. It's the how that has changed. It's not the what. Do we still need to know about thermodynamics in physics? Yes, we do. But not the way we are doing it now. So the whats have not changed, it's the how. So as human beings, our whats are also fundamental. We always wanted to travel. We always wanted to meet new people. We always wanted to see new places, have different kinds of cuisine, try food, try art, try music. Those are our desires, human desires. It's that how we get to those things have changed. It's the how. So here's what we believe in. So digital is good old human behavior captured in data. So we are going about doing the same things that we always used to, except we're just leaving lots and lots of data crumbs behind. This meeting that we're having today, 20 years ago, Google wouldn't have known. Today, Google knows there is an odd collection of extremely senior people in one place, sitting very close to each other, and Zoom knows the topic we are discussing, and some messages know what we are talking about today. And if you put all of that together, we have left tons of data crumbs behind in just today's meeting. And all that data is harvestable. All that data is visible, usable, and I'll show you how. Okay. No, that's not Sanjeev. I'm talking about the elephant in the room. Okay. So artificial intelligence is founded upon the basis of machine learning. Okay. So I might end up saying wrong things because I'm only a practitioner, not the expert that you expect me to be. So if I'm saying something wrong, correct me. It's founded upon the principle of machine learning. In the sense, how many of you have, so I have old parents. So they have this night lamp in their bathroom where when they enter, it's got a motion sensor, it turns on, right? So how long do you think that light has been around? That light sensor which turns on in the night? How long have you known that light to be around? Sorry? Yeah, so would you consider that artificial intelligence? Yeah. Would you consider so it has to be trained, right? It had to learn that somehow something blocks my light, my vision, I have to turn on. Somebody had to teach that machine to behave that way. Right? But as in with a module, right? The module itself had a program in it. Correct. So correct. So the module itself was given a fixed program, not a dynamic program, a fixed. Something blocks the light, you turn it on. So much like machine learning, when we say machine learning, you need to teach the machines to learn about your life, about what we do, about how we go about things from data, and therefore elevate it to artificial intelligence. So the foundation of artificial intelligence, you need to have some machine learning. And the entire ecosystem, frankly, looks like this. The little black patch that you see in the middle is actually the machine learning code. Now, for that to work, what you need around is all of that. There's a reason why it has taken 3 decades for OpenAI and ChatGPT to be what it is today. It had to do all of that. It had to do data collection, verification, resources, infrastructure, feature extraction, analysis tools, all of that. Only then that little nugget of machine learning was born. Now, what artificial intelligence is doing today, it is helping you accelerate all of that and build machine learning on its own and accelerate machine learning itself. Okay. So I'll show you how artificial intelligence helps you rapidly do market research. Okay. So again, like I said, I'm going to be jumping between different things. So here, so I'm going to show you a tool which is based on large language model called Shulex. And I'm going to do some research on a particular product from Amazon. So if I go to Amazon, this is the product I want to do some research on. Paste it. So I had that Shulex plugin implemented. So you will see something at this gray patch. Can you notice there's a gray patch that's come up? Yeah? You see that? Okay. Now it is identified there are 2,965 reviews, which means verified purchasers who have actually reviewed this product, right? And I want to do a review analysis. Look at what I'm getting today. This used to take months of quantitative research with questionnaire. Okay? I've got who, when, where, and what. I got what are the pros of the product. Let me just small and larger. What are the pros of the product as per consumer's voice? I've got what are the usage scenarios as per consumer's voice. I've got what they don't like about the product as per consumer's voice. What are the consumer expectations? What are the purchase motivators? Now, I remember working with Unilever doing this kind of work 10 years ago. Millions of dollars, 1 quarter gone, just to get this out. We can't afford to wait 3 weeks, forget a quarter. The speed at which the market is moving, this is the speed at which we need to do market research. And you can actually download all of this data in a spreadsheet, fully download, analyze. And I'll show you how AI and LLMs help you do this analysis rapidly as well, and how quickly. Okay. So Okay. Now, any questions? Anything that's crossing your mind? Any thoughts? Okay, so here it is quite easy. So if I go to the reviews of the product,
Every Amazon product has all these reviews.
yes,
Just gone and read through all of them.
yes,
So here there are some paid reviews also.
no, they are verified purchases. You will notice Amazon has very clearly highlighted, let me make it bigger.
It is captured by artificial intelligence to Amazon and other.
It's a plugin. What it's done is taken ChatGPT, put it inside Amazon, and said, okay, hey, ChatGPT, go and read the reviews, see the ratings, look at the price, look at the location, and summarize it for me.
The plugin which has worked on a data which is available in of similar websites.
Any e-commerce.
Now, there are certain sets of questionnaires for which a particular set of data is not available.
Correct.
So that is more of a primary research, if you could say.
Yes, but that also has, correct. Which brings me to the next one. Quite interesting. It's a very interesting question. So let me take you to the next case study.
The AI has to be published and consumed side.
It digests this. It digests the unstructured structure. Done. Yeah. Now imagine the amount of products you have out there of your own organization, listed in Amazon, listed in e-commerce sites, listed as insurance resellers, listed as flight tickets. Everywhere there are reviews, everywhere there are ratings, publicly visible. What all can you do with it?
And this is just for product reviews.
Just product.
There can be some more tilted towards industrial products, which are
100%.
The data may not be that widely available over the web.
Depends. Let me take you to another project. So this is Hilton Group of Hotels. So I'm going to take you through a technique called chain prompting in AI, which we use quite frequently to clean up and tell the data some answers. Okay, I will demonstrate it how it works. So Hilton Group of Hotels, right after COVID, came and told us for Japan and Australia, they wanted to know what sort of packages can we design for professionals with families for staycations and workations. For staycations and workations. Okay. So, and they had no data. They had absolutely no data. So what did we do? Here's something you can do. If I go to TripAdvisor, and okay, it's already in Tokyo. If I go to hotels, let me check out dates. Okay, and if I say keep it to 5-star, it starts with 4-star. Okay. Okay. So now, can you see the amount of data that's out there in the first page itself? Right? If I go to each of these hotels inside, I get more data, and I get data at an individual level. For example, not just that, I can go inside to people who have come from different countries, which countries they have come from. So this is from UK, a number of contributions, rating, unstructured data, and more data in terms of how individually people have rated on value, location, everything. Why is the individual important? Because we can harvest all of this data. We can mine all of this data. It's a method called data scraping. I'm sure the techies in this room are very well aware of it. Data scraping allows you to harvest all of this data. Okay. and automate it. And then you can put it into LLMs and it'll analyze the whole thing for you in quantitative, in qualitative terms. So what did we do? We harvested all of this data of Tokyo and Australia. I'll show you a snippet of the data. It's a huge data, but let me show you some of it, what it looks like. Okay, so let me make it larger. Okay, so here you got hotel, you got different tabs. All this data has been harvested. There are Japan and Australian hotels. You got hotel style, you got travel safety in terms of what COVID measures they had. You got amenities. You got room tips. These are all from TripAdvisor, publicly available, free. Okay. Family type, what are the different kinds of families, multiple languages across. Okay. Now, I want something simple. I do not want so many tabs. I want the whole thing to be simplified and analyzed for me to give some answers to my clients. This used to take, if you look back even 5 years ago, if I had to do this research from Australia and Japan across all 5-star hotels for Hilton group of hotels, it would have taken me easily 6 months to collect all this data, clean up, analyze, and make sense of it. But I'm going to do a live demo of the reporting and the method we used right now in front of you. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to ChatGPT. Okay. I'm going to open this. I'm going to take that entire spreadsheet and drop it here. And I want you to take a look at my prompts. Yes, you have a question? Okay, I don't want so many tabs. I just want to create a new Excel that has only the following tabs: hotels, amenities, room tips, call it relevant tabs, a new file. And I'm not going to do any work. ChatGPT, you do all the work. So I've loaded the file here. I paste the instruction. So go. And what it is doing while it's analyzing, look, it's doing the Python code. I don't have to do the Python code. It is doing the Python code. In fact, I don't even want to see it. Yes, there you go. It's done. So Excel downloaded. Let me download this. Okay. 05. Okay. Now let's take a look at this and see what they've done. There you go. It's cleaned up everything and only kept 3 tabs for me: hotels, amenities, and room tips. That's it. Now I've got a second problem. Again, remember, I'm not a techie. So removed it and created a new file. Formatted, created a new file. Now I've got a second problem. I want to join these 3 sheets. What do you usually, anybody with Excel expertise here? I'm sure. Anybody with Excel expertise here? Join the 3 sheets. What do? We look up, right? We look up macro. I do not understand any of these words. I do not. So how do I go about it? Plain English. Here's what I'm going to do. Yeah, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take that file and I'm going to go to the next prompt. Okay, this is where a little bit of knowledge is essential. This is my prompt. I'll paste it there. So the point I would like to make here is AI will help those the most who are already subject matter experts. So if you are a good economist, if you are a good engineer, you will hugely benefit from AI way more than somebody who's not. So AI sits on your foundation of subject matter expertise. So if you see the first line of this prompt, it says inner join. Can anybody help the room understand? I don't know what it is. What is inner join? Is it? Is it?
Parameters, it joins two tables or two data sets.
Okay. Anybody else? I do not like silent part of the room. Who are the techies here? Inner join. Okay. In two sheets, if you find within this column, I have specified a column. Within this column, whatever is common across two, pick only those two. Basically matching. Only those two. If they're not common, it will drop. It won't exist. Similarly, there are other kinds of joins. There's something called left join, which means whatever is here on the left, keep that. Whatever is matching on the right, take the matching ones. Whatever is not matching will be blank. There is right join, which means whatever is on the right. So here a little bit of knowledge of understanding fundamentals of database, nothing to do with AI. Inner join existed 30 years ago. Okay. So inner join the fields, the hotel ID and all that, and create a cleaner, a totally joined data sheet for me. So let's see what it does. Again, it is doing the code, except I don't need to bother with it. It is writing the Python code. I do not need to bother with it. Not my problem. Okay, it's taking a bit of time.
Can also be helpful.
It can be. I wanted to keep it just to make the point that some amount of knowledge is necessary. Some amount of fundamental knowledge is necessary. Yeah.
Question, is it an OpenAI platform which we have registered or any other?
It's ChatGPT.
ChatGPT 4 is
4. Yeah, 4.0, ChatGPT 4. Everybody has ChatGPT 4. It is, yeah, it's public. So I'm going to download the next file that it is made and let me check what it has done. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So it has actually joined across all the sheets and created a grand connected sheet for me. Okay. Now, what does this have? It has things like amenities, pool, gym, club, babysitting. It has things like room features, whether the room has a balcony or not. It has things like walking grade. How easy is it for you to walk from your hotel to the nearest attraction or the nearest restaurants? It has things like attractive restaurants nearby, what their ratings are. All those things are in there. Now, I'm feeling lazy. I really don't want to sit and analyze all of that. So I'm going to go straight into a simple direct analysis and tell me, at least at the onset, what's going on out there. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go to the prompt list. So you can see there's a list of prompts that I have. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'll share all of them with you. So there's a cleanup, there's a text replace, there's all of that. I'm going to go to a very simple prompt, create a correlation matrix across different features, walking grade, restaurants, attractions, each to each. Custom diverging, which means green is high correlation, red is low correlation, where green is high and red is low. Include the R value, which means the correlation coefficient. And create a chart graph, write a brief analysis. So I'm going to take this prompt. I'm going to go ChatGPT. I'm going to put the new file there, which is this. I'm just going to paste that and say, okay, I'll create a correlation matrix. Let's see what it does. Give it a bit of time. It takes a bit of time to do all of this. So, yeah. Yeah, there are no stupid questions.
And the stuff that you are creating.
Yeah.
So presumably ChatGPT knows, and that's also part of
Yeah, before I go there, quickly, so it's created the correlation matrix for me. Okay. It's telling me across every feature to every feature, what are the highest. Greens are the high correlations. So obviously the diagonal one is 1-to-1 because it's the same feature. But if you look at things like, for example, if you look at walking grade, there seems to be a very high relationship with the hotel star rating and walking grade, how people rate the hotels, which means how easy it is to walk from your hotel to the nearest attraction. And not only that, it has given an analysis, you can see on the right side, of the entire thing. Now, I'll come to your question. Let me just quickly finish this. And I wanted to push it even further. So now that I've fed all this information, why can't I ask it something else? Write a set menu for dinner and recommend prices for long stay and short stay. Long stay and short stay differentiation to be reflected in the food menu prices. I've trained all of this to ChatGPT. I've given it the data, and now I'm going to make it do something that I can actually actively implement in my hotel. Oh, sorry, it's correlation matrix still. Stop. Okay. Okay. So it's looked through all of the data. It's looked through all of the correlations that the hotels have. And it is decided for long stay and short stay, here are the different kind of pricing options you can have actually. Now, this would have taken me months and millions of dollars to get to this point. Okay, now coming to your question. How many times have you copy pasted things from the internet to a presentation? It's an open question to all of you. Right? How many of you know the superhero Flash? The superhero Flash. Flash is a superhero that can do things blazingly fast. In a blink of an eye, it can go from here to the US. A superhero. He's a superhero. If Flash was doing copy pasting from the internet, it would be called data scraping. Data scraping is nothing but machine-driven copy pasting from the internet. That's how you harvest data from everywhere. Today, I've got people who are working on programs that go around the world looking for government tenders that are specifically suitable for their own businesses to pitch for. When I was in Stockholm, it was really difficult to find an apartment for unemployed students like us. I know some guys who had written codes that would just look around and scrape for the latest available and immediately ping on their phone. Available apartment, go fast. So data scraping has been around. That's how Google gets you the results. Yeah. And like I said, there are no silly questions. There are no stupid questions. There are some questions that we need to ask ourselves. So one of the questions we always used to ask ourselves is, why is Google so fast? Why is Google so fast? So let's examine that let's take artificial intelligence. And look at the search results. So it's, okay, it used to tell me how many search results it's got, it doesn't tell me anymore. So it will technically tell you we've got millions and millions of search results. But if you go to the right at the end of it, I want to see the last result, the very last one. That's it. Page 31 is where it ends. Nowhere near the 20 million results it's promised. So Google has understood your behavior extremely well. You know the joke, no? What's the best place to bury a dead body? You know what's the best place to bury a dead body? The second page of Google search results. The second page of Google search results. Nobody goes there. Never be found. So yeah. Yes. Two, three questions, okay. I can't promise all the answers.
First question, already we are using R square or SPSS tools for analyzing this kind of data to check the level of significance of the R value which you have put in the data. So whether these tools, the SPSS and R studio will become redundant after this AI and all?
Absolutely not. They will become plugins into ChatGPT.
As a proxy.
They will become facilitators. So when you want to do statistical analysis in plain English, you will evoke SPSS ChatGPT plugin. So if I go to ChatGPT today, let me give you and this is not just for ChatGPT, it will exist for everybody. If I go to Explore GPT and if I say statistics.
Means you are telling, sir, it will become an umbrella tool which will subsume this chat.
Correct. So you look at this. Look at the amount of statistical plugins, applets in ChatGPT. So if you work with SPSS, and if you know clearly in your mind what you want, because you worked in SPSS, your prompts are going to be much better. Because you worked on R, your prompts are going to be much better. But you'll be using these. You won't be doing it yourself. Much like the way you do not make your own light bulb today, do you? Okay? Right. Moving on. Yes, I'm moving on very, very quickly. So how quickly do we need to move? Okay, this is the timeline of artificial intelligence. All I want you to see are the last 4 years, how compressed the timelines have been. So you're going to move in much faster. You're going to upskill and learn much faster. And the entire world of learning has changed. Okay, as Alvin Toffler had said, the illiterate of 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. Okay, so what we have done is we've made a stab at taking the world's biggest learning library. Can anybody guess what's the world's biggest learning library is? Absolutely. Absolutely. YouTube is the biggest learning library in the world today. Okay. And for years, I used to consider myself as a bad student because I realized that I'm not very good at reading and learning. The moment I started learning from videos, everything changed for me. Everything changed. So I'm going to introduce you to something called Fusky. It's something we are working on, we are developing, trying to get somewhere. So let me demonstrate to you. So let's say you take a video. This is a video on artificial intelligence, okay? Because we are talking artificial intelligence.
These days, AI. Machine learning is another hot topic. Are they the same thing or are they different? And if so, what are those differences? And deep learning is another one, large language models and chat bots.
So I'm not going to
seem
play
to
the
be
whole
taking
video.
over
I'm
the
going to play
world
parts of it.
frame. And in those days, it would.
And then what I'm going to do is, I'm going to get AI. So I've seen this video. I want to learn about artificial intelligence. I want to learn, not because I want to get a degree, not because I want to finish a curriculum or course, not because I want to impress my professor, because I want to learn. I've seen this video and I want to see what my quality of learning has been. I'll open this little plugin on the side if you can see. I'm going to say advanced, both, generate quiz. Let's see. Okay. What it has done, now these questions have nothing to do with me. It has looked through the video, read the transcript, and has created a quiz for you to evaluate whether or not you have learned for yourself. Okay? To thine own self be true. Not for your professor, not for your degree, not for your certificate, none of that. So I'm going to quickly go through answering these. I'm going to just randomly answer and see what it says. Election interference. I'm randomly answering, okay? I'm not thinking. Yes, they have, but they have fixed videos. Here, you can choose any video. You can pick any video.
Just take random video and ask it to listen to the video and give you a set of questions whether you understood that.
The entire, so I do not, so one of the things that I had a problem with is that here is a course and here is a book. This is the book which you have to learn from. Yes. So what the hell? What if I don't want to learn from that book? Yeah.
I'm auditory person. I want more of sound actually. I learned through hearing
No
sounds.
problems.
So that can prompt actually
No
as well.
problems. No problems. I'll give you another example. So let me just quickly do this, then I'll give you another example. I'm just randomly answering something just to show you the. Okay.
Picture testing, you done like this. Plan to do it.
Also subjective. You can subjective the text also. Also do video recording of your answers. You can also video record your answers, which is fine.
Fundamental research actually can pinpoint that there is a case about it. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. I'm just waiting for it to finish this. So,
Random video. You can make your own video.
okay, so there you go. I've got only 10% correct. Okay, because I was running like one. So so here is the useful part of it. If you look at where I've got it wrong, it's got a timestamp. It gives me the opportunity to go back
There's
to
these things called neural network.
that part of the video where that answer is. So I don't expect you to be reading the book and becoming an expert. It is okay for you to go back, look at the question, go back where the answer is, read it, come back to the question. And every time you do the quiz, it generates a different kind of question at different level. Now imagine this session that we're doing today. Mr. Khaitan has said something. Sanjeev has said something. I have said something. Some people have asked us some questions. Some people have given some answers. Today's session could be a learning session. There's a video recording out there. What if we took a session like this again? What if we took a session like this and decided to make that a learning nugget? Okay, now the questions are generated by AI. Okay, whatever, if something politically incorrect comes up, don't blame me. So let's take a look at this.
How India. What I'm going to speak about is the business of how reforms are done.
But the reason why I put
But a
it
specific
there,
kind of
not to
reform.
embarrass
So you
you,
see,
because today is a session like
we all
this.
talked over the last day or so about how India is changing and economic growth
Now,
is being generated. And
Can I watch this entire video and turn this into a learning experience? Yes, I can.
Maybe I have to take the test and see if I pass.
It's your speech, Sanjeev, you better.
If I know where to go. That's what it stands for.
So what this allows you to, it allows you to pick your own way of learning. It doesn't, so there you go.
Identify, whatever. So the point is that it is completely radically changes. As I said, tertiary education is now already dead. Will you be able to predict the US elections? For the AI output as the prediction. On the basis of the administration data.
Okay, with Trump around, I do not think anybody can predict anything. That guy is absolutely nuts. Yeah, so those of you who would like to connect with me later on, have a conversation, happy to chat, happy to discuss more. And thank you very much, Sanjeev. Thank you very much, Mr. Khaitan. Thank you very much to all of you for giving me your time and your patience. And yeah, open to questions. Any questions? 5 minutes Q&A. We'll do it in the end. Okay, we'll do it in the end. We'll do it in the end. Reserve your questions. Much. How do you?
now, you just got a flavor of existing AI systems. I also deliberately asked Shubhendu to do it because he's not a techie. He's a user like you. And the level of knowledge he showed, most of us in the next few years will have that level, should have that level of knowledge at the very least. It's not very high technology, but it does require some amount of getting used to it. But look, we've all got used to using our smartphones. We are doing very complicated things on our smartphones every day as a matter of routine now. So the kinds of things that he did, and by the way, as ChatGPT also improves, many of these prompts will become much more common sense terms as well. So, you know, eventually this is where we are headed. Now, the problem with this is obviously that this technology not only does what it is doing today, but this technology can actually grow itself. It has emergent behavior, what is called emergent behaviors, and it can talk to other such technologies. So not only did this, the previous technology that you saw and the two technologies Shubhendu showed you, they can actually talk to each other because that knowledge exists in the universe. You can actually, a few years, very, very quickly, not just few years, you can probably already do it. You can create that ChatGPT heat map, menu, whatever. Ask ChatGPT to create a lecture on it and then have a testing system on that lecture. So can you see how fast we can go with this? This is coming. Now, because it can now behave in this way and do things that you didn't originally ask it to do, because so far it is doing more or less what we are asking it to do, it will be able very quickly to do things which we didn't imagine it wanted it to do. Now comes the problem, but what happens when it begins to do things that we don't want it to do, or it begins to do things that are dangerous to humankind or to a system? Now, just 2 months ago, you may remember that just one line of static code was wrong in a supplier to a Microsoft. And airlines around the world, banks, all kinds of things got stalled. Okay. That was a line of static code, one line. Now imagine if everything is dynamic and everything gets interconnected, while for long periods of time it may work perfectly very well, but when it does blow out, imagine the catastrophic blowouts that can happen. And I'm not talking here necessarily of malignant technologies. I'm not talking about some big boss kind of character who comes and trying to actually harm us. It may be something very, very benign, which can completely go out of control. Very simple thing. You may ask the system, in an interconnected world where so much of our lives are being run by this, you could say, AI solve cancer. And AI may, for entirely benign reason, decide that killing all human beings is the best way of solving cancer. Right? That's the prompt. Kills. You type in there, solve cancer forever. And the system may decide that killing all human beings. So it is not like malignant systems trying to do bad things. It can be entirely benign systems doing things which we didn't intend it to do and leading to catastrophic outages. So this brings us to a very, very difficult area of policy, which is what do we do as policymakers to begin to regulate all of this, because it's coming. And different countries have already begun to think about this in different ways. So the US and UK have gone for basically self-regulation as the way of doing it. They have large companies, they've told them to self-regulate. Now, whether or not it works, at least in those countries, the balancing thing is that they have something called tort law. So should a company do something that turns out bad, they then will impose these billion-dollar fines and just blow those up. So they think that will be good enough for the moment. And they're talking a lot about regulating it, but by and large, they're allowing these large companies to do whatever it does. Now, there is an obvious problem that if you went back 20, 25 years and you asked the social media companies what will happen as a result of social media, they would have told you, look, now everybody can talk to everybody. You will actually see all ideologies, everything move to the center because now we can all talk to each other. But in fact, we know that effectively it's created echo chambers because that's what the algorithms do. So asking the technology companies, even if they are being entirely benign about predicting where this is going, is a waste of time. Even those who are creating these technologies have literally no idea where it is going because they are complex adaptive systems, and these complex adaptive systems are fundamentally non-predictable. So do not ask technology companies where they're going. They don't know. We could give them massive billion-dollar fines retrospectively in US in particular, but the damage may already be undone. But anyway, at least for the time being, the US is going for a laissez-faire approach. The Europeans are going for a completely opposite. They have gone for bureaucratic control. So how have they gone about it? Well, they have created laws which have just come in place a few months ago, where they are classifying in terms of level of risk different kinds of AI technologies. And they're saying that, look, AI technologies relating to nuclear stuff is probably bad. That's obvious. And maybe relating to cosmetics is okay. Now, as you will realize that this is actually impossible to do. Because in an interconnected world where things are emergent and evolving, you actually have no way of predicting which bit of the AI is actually dangerous. Something entirely benign, you saw one line of code in something unconnected blew up half the world's airlines. Now imagine something that has evolved over time and has actually no longer in human understanding and does something which it was not meant to do. So it may be that in the end, some technology meant for improving hairstyles blows up something really big. So the European approach too is not going anywhere. It's actually very likely going to tie up Europe's AI development for very little gains from it. So this is where I think it's going. So both of these are not working. The Chinese approach is basically the state knows everything. The Communist Party knows everything. And therefore, they too are similar to the European approach, but in a more heavy-handed sort of way. But as we saw with the COVID crisis and coming out of Wuhan labs, irrespective of whether or not they deliberately developed that virus, the fact of the matter is they lost control of it. So this idea that the all-knowing Chinese state will be able to control this is also very unlikely. The likelihood of something like a Wuhan virus escaping out of the AI world is also very possible. So what should we do to control AI? Here are a bunch of things that I think that we will eventually have to consider. I'm going to talk about 5 of them. I've written a paper about them. You can look it up in the Economic Advisory Council of the Prime Minister's website. But here are some of the things that we in India are talking about, and we have sent this out to the rest of the world. So this is now being discussed quite widely in the world as well. So this is a paper I've written with another person called Chirag, who works in my team. And here we basically look at number one thing that we'll eventually have to decide on, which is we will have to create firewalls and separations between domains. This idea of the internet of everything is something we will eventually have to give up. If we interconnect everything, then at some point in time, if we are around long enough, everything will fall apart. So we need to be willing to create these firewalls. We do this kind of thing routinely, for example, with forest management, right? We create these fire gaps. So we will need to create separations between domains. It means that the world will have to take a call between efficiency and resilience. This is a call we take routinely in other areas of life. This too is something we will have to do. Number one. Number two, I'm surprised nobody talks about, although it's very obvious, is that we require human oversight and manual overrides. That in order for these things to do certain activities, we will have to enforce manual overrides in AI systems, that we can just switch it off. And this means that at every level, before it goes completely haywire, we will need to create systems where humans have to say yes or no to certain kinds of things, which brings me to another requirement, which is also there, which is that of explainability. We have to create audits from time to time. It could be a quarterly, half yearly, whatever you think is sensible. But we will have to get AI companies to be subjected to explainability audits, i.e., that is needed if you want to allow manual overrides. They need certain choke points in the system where somebody has to say, yes, go ahead, in order to allow this. Having done all of this, we then need to create ex ante skin in the game, which is we need to create legal systems where the blame is clearly fixed on somebody. Right now, what will happen if something goes wrong, the way the current law is set up, is that the AI algorithm guy will blame the data, the user will blame the AI algorithm guy, the data fellow will blame the source of the data, all kinds of people will blame each other. We need an ex ante person to blame. We need a protocol that is set up in law before all of this happens, that there is somebody in charge who will go to jail when things go wrong. And finally, we will need a regulator for all of this to keep track of all of these things. Now, you may ask, oh my God, this is really complicated to do. But in fact, we do this routinely for a large number of complex adaptive systems already. So let me give you one example of a complex adaptive system that we now routinely function in this way. Financial markets. Nobody knows where just like with AI, nobody knows where financial markets are going. It's continuously changing, evolving, all kinds of things are going on. What do we do here? We have all kinds of things that we have created. We have separation of domains. We call them Chinese walls or whatever you may call, right? You do this. You have manual overrides in financial markets all the time. If stock market suddenly goes up or down too fast, you can switch it off. You have explainability audits in AI. Well, you do audits of finances all the time. Every quarter or whatever, we have audit protocols. We force companies to do audits. We have created ex ante skin in the game. right? The directors go to jail if certain kinds of things happen, or you cannot come back and say, sorry, there's a Bhopal gas tragedy and nobody is uh, responsible. And of course, we have regulator SEBI. And all of these things have evolved over time to create an architecture that keeps this thing going. Do we have breakdowns from time to time? Yes. But we are able to keep this thing going for most of the time. And when very bad breakdown happens, we are able to switch the system off for a reset. This is something we will have to do for artificial intelligence at some point. It does mean that many of the technology enthusiasts may have to be given a bit of a cold shower at some point. It does mean that these protocols will have to be accepted worldwide. There's no point in us accepting this and the rest, other countries doing whatever. But at some point, these points that I have just made will have to be incorporated into the way we think about artificial intelligence. And this will have to be done in the not too distant future. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
The vote of thanks. I just want to know that as an advisor, do you use artificial intelligence to give advice to your bosses at any point of time?
So no, you see, in government, we have to mostly, the problem is natural stupidity. So dealing with that is the biggest problem. And so much of what I now do is called process reforms, which is basically taking out, reforming the inefficiencies of the system, bureaucracy, processes, laws, and trying to solve them out. In fact, one of the things I would like to do is to train artificial intelligence to go through all our laws and processes and tell me which ones are obviously absurd and outdated. So maybe will harness this tool one day to do this. But right now, I'm afraid I'm not as lucky as Shubhendu. I have to do it the hard way, line by line, and push it through the system. So no, I don't yet use artificial intelligence in any meaningful way.
Okay, thanks a lot. I'll take only 3 questions. Do you have the name? Three questions, yeah.
Thank you, Sanjeev, and for a wonderful.
Be short and brief.
Yeah. So my question is about something that you hinted at towards the very end, about the transnational nature of artificial intelligence. Where are we headed? Does it mean the end of the nation state? Does it undermine the notion of how we are governed or set ourselves up as communities, as nations, etc.?
So, okay, I mean, look, we already have many things that we deal with which are global commons. We already have discussions on the environment. We obviously have global shipping and trade. We have the internet, which is a global common. Obviously, there are not all countries are equal in all of this. There will be countries that will be at the cutting edge of all of this. So obviously, they will matter more, which is one of the reasons we need to engage with this very early on and be part of the standard setting process. For all this while, we thought of ourselves as an emerging country, and we were, except for 1 or 2 small areas, we were basically rule takers. But within the next 2-3 years, we will be the world's 3rd largest economy. And in things AI type, we will be a world power, no doubt about it. In that environment, I think, while things may be transnational, a few large countries will always decide the rules of the game. And we have to engage in that actively.
One. The last one.
AI become more. Sorry, sir. How can we ensure that as AI become more advanced and autonomous, it remains aligned with the human values, ethical principle, and global equity, while preventing unintended bias or harmful consequences?
So I gave you 5 things that I already talked about. You need explainability, i.e. those who are running these systems need to be able to explain what is going on. There needs to be audits. We need to have manual overrides and separation. And very important, there has to be skin in the game. Now, skin in the game means that when things go wrong, as they inevitably will from time to time, it is clear that somebody is responsible, and two, that there is somebody and a regulator whose job it is to keep track of the whole system. This will be a specialized activity. Let me tell you, the average person will not be able to keep track of it. But then, as I said, we do this routinely for other things. The average person doesn't understand financial markets either. The average person does not understand many other things that we run routinely, but we regulate them. So I think this is one more place where this kind of thing will happen.
Last question.
Yeah.
As you said so, there's a possibility of AI being misused to a great deal. The way you frame questions to ChatGPT will elicit the same sort of answers. So when can we expect a government regulation or a legislation? How far is it?
So one very important thing here is that we need to not be too prescriptive. Okay, this is not a machine in the sense of machines, of Newtonian machines. Okay, this is a complex adaptive system. So like I said, with complex adaptive system, you cannot be prescriptive about where it is going. And we should accept that there will be a fair amount of failure in it. But at the same time, we need to develop a certain level of skepticism about what the system does. We need to be active in terms of what all kinds of data goes in there. We need regulation and transparency about what it does. So all of this requires that we take control of it and do not, you see, what we do not want to happen is that this technology takes control of us. It's a tool, but we need to be control of it. And this will be true for users. It will be true for governments. It will be true for corporations. We need to see this clearly as a tool and its downsides, because it's obvious that we can, if you give it bad data, it'll spit out bad outcomes. If you ask it the wrong question, it'll give you certain kinds of bizarre answers. And while the obvious ones you may be able to stop, the more subtle ones will not. And of course, you're right. There will be malified manipulation of this as well. And by the way, this already happens. I mean, anybody who has seen what has been happening to my Wikipedia entry over the last 5 years will know all kinds of people go and deface it all the time. Somebody corrects it eventually, but for the period that is defaced, people are getting all kinds of garbage information about me, and I'm not going to sit all the time trying to correct it.
When do you expect this legislation?
Well, we are discussing it. We will create, it'll happen through iteration. But all I'm trying to say is that the European kind of approach is not going to work. That is a dead in the water. It's perhaps even worse than laissez-faire of America, because the Americans know that they've let it loose. Here, they think they have it in control, but they're looking the wrong way.
Sir, before Shri Pachesia proposes the vote of thanks, we wish to share that our chamber has compiled a publication on Indian Economic Perspectives 2024-29, a few suggestions. This will be forwarded to the various ministries in the Government of India. We wish to request Shri Sanyal to release this publication before we present it to the various departments and ministries. So.
Various topics we are considered defense, economic growth, steel, coal, all subjects, and we presenting it to the government of our suggestions as per the growth of the country.
Sir, can we please present the mementos now? Okay, so I would request you to present the memento to Shri Sanjeev Sanyal, Member Advisory Council, Member Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister, Government of India. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us and addressing this exclusive session. We have a memento for Shri Mukherjee. I would request you to present the memento to Shri Mukherjee, please. Thank you so much, sir. Now may I request Shri Pachesia, Senior Vice President of the Chamber, to propose the vote of thanks.
Mr. Sanyal, Mr. Mukherjee, members of the Chamber, friends and guests. At the end of today's exclusive session on preparing for the age of artificial intelligence, it gives me immense pleasure to move a hearty vote of thanks to our guest-in-chief, Shri Sanjeev Sanyal, uh, for sparing some of his valuable time to visit Kolkata and addressing the members of the chamber once again. It's been always a great pleasure to have you with us. In fact, we need to have you for more of the topics closer to your heart, and of course on the economy as well. I would also like to thank Shri Subhendu Mukherjee, founder director, the 10th floor, for his interesting presentation and valuable observations. With a robust startup ecosystem, renowned institutions like IITs and forward-thinking government initiatives, India is nurturing a vibrant AI landscape and is poised to thrive in the age of artificial intelligence. I'm confident that as India leverages AI for inclusive growth, innovation, and problem solving, it is surely to become the next global AI hub. My thanks are due to the members and guests for attending today's exclusive session. My thanks are also due to the representatives of the media for their presence today. With these words, I request you to join me in carrying a hearty vote of thanks to Shri Sanyal and Shri Mukherjee with appreciative acclamation. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please join us for lunch.